Kentucky Derby points are once again up for grabs. The Rebel Stakes is our feature this week on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Luke Elder alongside Tom Collins as always. We're trying to cram it in because Tom needs his beauty sleep. So, Tom, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to say beauty sleep. I've got to get up at 4 a.m. tomorrow for breakfast at the track, Romantic Warrior, etc. working out. So it is beauty sleep, but I'm not going to get much of it. And tomorrow's a big day. So yeah, we do need to cram it in. But what on earth is that behind you right now?
Dining room.
With a random heart curtain in the middle?
Yeah, well, it's been Valentine's Day, and we've got a kids' party at the weekend, so all the kids come around and it's Valentine's. Like, don't pretend like you hate love.
I mean, it was a good link. Did you see that, by the way? It was like a sly link between Romantic Warrior and Romantic Luke, I guess.
I don't get to be a romantic warrior?
You're not a warrior, I'm afraid.
Okay, fine. Well, warriors are plenty in the Rebel Stakes because I'd say this is so far the best Kentucky Derby trial we've had. Obviously, we're hoping that it will get better even further in the next few weeks or so, and it will do exactly that. But the Rebel this year looks an absolutely phenomenal race. Just a bit of housekeeping. Meant to be run on Saturday because of freezing temperatures in Arkansas during the week at Oaklawn Park. They have moved the race back to Sunday. So if you are watching this, maybe you watch on a Saturday the Turf and Touchdowns podcast and you're thinking, well, where's the race tonight? It's not tonight. They've moved the card to Sunday. So that part has been moved, but it gives us more of a time to look through things and hopefully find a winner or two, Tom. I'm actually going to lead by taking in the market. I don't know if have you seen the market yet?
I haven't. I've seen the morning line, but not the market.
Okay. Sandman is currently favourite 4-1. That is no surprise at all. 9-2 for Speed King, 6-1 Cold Battle. Bullard at 13-2, Madaket Road at 7-1, Smoking Wicked at 10s, 10-1 for Tistastic, 11-1 Admiral Dennis, 12-1 and bigger the remainder. I mean, Sandman is 4-1. So many people have made this horse their sort of anti-post or way too early pick for the Kentucky Derby itself. They will be all over the 4-1, and I understand why. He's a very, very talented horse.
Yeah, I thought he'd be favourite, and he's probably the right starting point for us to go into this race. And as we talk about the major players, he's a very big colt. Last time up, he ran a great race in the Southwest, and he probably should have won because he stumbled terribly at the start, and that put him right on the back foot. And he had to go between horses, go around the traffic basically, and he eventually finished a good second in the end. His victories have been very good, but his below par efforts, aside from last time, have been pretty shocking. I don't really know 100% where we stand with him, but what we do know is he's got a lot of talent. My problem with him is he's a deep closer, or at least a closer, and he's drawn inside. If he breaks poorly again, or even if he breaks on terms, he's going to get shuffled back, and then you're going to have to hope for a clean passage through the race. That's a bit of a worry for me. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if he won by any means, but as I say, that closing style may not see him to best effect from that post, given his size.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't necessarily think Sandman will win this weekend, but he's coming out of the actual race at the moment anyway. Obviously, we'll hopefully learn plenty more at the weekend. Pace is key at Oaklawn Park. We mentioned it about Tampa Bay Downs a few weeks ago. We mentioned it endlessly about Gulfstream Park as well. But at Oaklawn Park, being on the front end is no bad thing whatsoever. Assuming Sandman's not going to be there, where have you got the pace lying?
Well, the pace lies with Speed King, who is the horse we're going to talk about next, ironically. But there is also other speed in there. I think Madaket Road will probably push forward for Bob Baffa. Quite surprised he's 7-1 in the market, by the way. I thought the traders may take kind of an aggressive approach with one of Baffa's, especially with Irad on in Madaket Road, but that's not the case. The Speed King is quite clearly the fastest of these, and I think he'll be able to get quite an easy lead early on. Now, when I say easy lead, I don't mean go slow fractions. I mean, just won't be challenged because he's so quick that I think he'll probably go 47 and change and still just have a length or two advantage over the field. Whether he can hold on, that's a different matter.
Yeah, that is going to be a slight issue because there's going to be some very good horses running at him this time around, much like there were more recently. But I do think Speed King has got a fair chance. Stall 11 for Speed King to get across?
I think he'll be able to cut across. He's got great gate speed. He won the Southwest last time, the race we've already talked about involving Sandman. A couple of those were already in behind as well. But if you go back to Remington Park form in December, Speed King finished behind Cold Battle, who's a bigger price in the market right now. And Cold Battle draws inside, so maybe you could see that form line being confirmed here. Speed King should go close because, as you say, he'll ride the bias at Oaklawn. I don't like him though. I think he's vulnerable in the final 16th, and in this deeper race with a bigger field, I think at least one or two will pass him late.
Did you just like straight up forget your microphone this week, or?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, hence these.
It still sounds fine. We can hear you. But yeah,
Good.
it's okay. It's okay. Just don't do it next week. Hypnus is the next one to discuss. Who I think one way or another, this is the most fascinating horse in the race because coming to a Rebel off the back of one start today is a very Kenny McPeak thing to do. But Hypnus won a good race at the fairgrounds. I know Cromwell came out and didn't exactly frank the form the other day. Didn't run terribly, but didn't win as you were maybe hoping. There were a few horses in behind there as well that look like nice types, and Hypnus won that pretty easily. So sure, if you're going to take a chance in a Rebel and find out if you genuinely have a Kentucky Derby horse, then Hypnus is the sort of horse to do that with.
Yeah, he made a huge late move to win that maiden. And as you say, the runner-up Cromwell let the form down. I was with Cromwell on Saturday when he ran. He's only run subsequently. And maybe the blinkers just stopped him from performing his best. Whatever happened, he was way below par. And it wasn't really a good measure of that piece of form where Hypnus beat him. I don't think you can necessarily say that the race was weak because Cromwell has come out to be beaten, for example. I know that Kenny McPeak loves this horse because I read an article with DRF after the race that Hypnus won. And he said it was no surprise to him, despite the horse being cold on the board and him not having a great record with first-time starters. Now, he could easily win, but to win the Rebel second time up, you need to be a pretty good horse. Side note, bit of inside information, Kenny McPeak's here in Saudi Arabia for Rattle and Roll on Saturday. He's not going to be at Oaklawn unless he somehow flies back Saturday evening and gets to Oaklawn by Sunday, which would be remarkable. But I think he's decided to watch Rattle and Roll rather than Hypnus. Whether you put any weight behind that, that's up to you.
Madaket Road is one worthy of a mention. I struggle to know what Madaket Road is. We've got, again, the yearly thing of, is Californian form really as good as the East Coast form or even the Kentucky form? Madaket Road looked fine last time around. Was obviously behind Citizen Bull, the Breeders' Cup winner. I don't know. I don't really like Madaket Road in this race, honestly. I think part of the price and part of the hype surrounding Madaket Road is Irad riding for Bob Baffert. And yes, that part is interesting.
Yeah, very much so. I thought he was going to make the market a little bit anyway. As I say, I thought he was going to be aggressively priced, maybe joint favourite or second favourite, but that's not the case. Bob Baffert just doesn't have too many runners at Oaklawn. I think Barnes debuted here earlier in the year and he won, or last season, whatever it was. But he's only had 7 in the last 12 months, 7 runners at Oaklawn. So the fact that Madaket Road here is running at Oaklawn is very interesting. Irad Ortiz has only had 1 mount for Bob Baffert in the last 12 months. Again, very interesting. That horse did lose, but still very small sample size for the best jockey or one of the best, and arguably one of the best trainers as well. I think this horse, though, is a bit of a longer term prospect. He just reefs and tugs went in behind horses. He's not going to make the front here because Speed King's just quicker. He ran behind Bullard on the debut. Bullard reopposes in this race, so I don't really see the form being reversed there. He won his maiden and then finished behind Citizen Bull, as you say, and then Robert B. Lewis. No excuses for my money in that race. Was just beaten by a better horse. Therefore, I don't want him in the Rebel. I'm happy to take him on, but it would be no surprise, of course, if Baffert and Irad won one of the big races again.
Yeah, exactly that. They rarely team up these days, but it is eye-catching that they are. Bullard, you mentioned in passing there, was the third in the San Vicente last time around, was the Bob Hope winner. 2 starts back, beating Madaket Road, as you say. He's going to have to improve, but to be fair, he's been surrounding himself with horses that are also quite prominent on the Kentucky Derby Trail, like Barnes.
Yeah, been beaten by some nice ones. It's just whether, 1, he can perform at this track, and 2, whether he actually wants this distance. I'm not convinced. I think he's a closing sprinter, maybe 7 furlongs at a push. I don't really want him going a mile plus. So it's a no from me. I know his running style may attract some people in, and as you say, he's been facing some nice horses, including the aforementioned Barnes. But he's just a horse that doesn't really tend to, didn't finish out his race very well last time. And I think he's very much suited by a fast pace and then has a 1 run in the home straight rather than having to go again, making a move on the turn and then having to go again in the straight, which you have to do over this trip.
A horse that we spoke about on the podcast so far this season, albeit it was in vain because he didn't run, is Admiral Dennis. Was he meant to run in the Lecomte?
He was.
Yeah, and then he didn't run, and then he came out a few days after, and he managed to win a nice enough race, to be fair, back at the fairgrounds that was valuable, but obviously not at a Kentucky Derby prep. He's back on the trail here, though, Tom, and look, he's found himself a far tougher race than the Lecomte, but he's still worthy of speaking about.
Yeah, anything Brad Cox runs is worthy of a mention. As you say, this is a tougher race than the Lecomte is. He draws inside, which is helpful, but he's a closing horse again. If you're pitched inside, you're going to get shuffled back. He's going to have to do it the hard way. However, if you go back 2 runs, he finished behind Built, who ran well in the Lecomte and then ran okay in the Risen Star. And in second in that race was Magnitude, who came out to win the Risen Star. And unfortunately, he's now been ruled out for the entire season with an ankle chip. But that form's working out pretty well. So on that bit of evidence, Admiral Dennis has a chance in here. I just don't fully trust him anymore. And as I say, I don't like the draw with him.
I'll tell you what, let's move on to selections because we're going to do things a bit differently this week. We're going to be bringing in NFL hype towards things. So, Tom, you're going to play 2. I'm going to play 1. So go for your first one, and I'm very much hoping you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. As you say, I'm going for 2 in here. Both are trained by the same guy. The first horse is Tistastic, who's 8-1 on the morning line, but I think you said 10-1 there in the international market, which is very fair each way kind of price win place show if you're in the US. Look, I don't like his draw. He's out in 13, but he has clear form claims thanks to his third place finish behind Speed King and Sandman in the Southwest. I didn't think he got the best of rides that day. He closed well. His prior race in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes was pretty strong as well. He finished placed in that. And I think he's just got a whole body of work there, which kind of puts Tistastic towards the top of this pecking order in just general terms of form. I like Jose Ortiz, especially at Oaklawn or Fairgrounds at the minute. And I really like his recent work at the track over 5 furlongs. So Tistastic is pick 1. He's not necessarily my most confident play, but here's the shorter of the 2.
Yeah. The other one, though, brings in something that we haven't done for a little while now. And I've kind of missed it because it's time to joint play. Oh, the voice wasn't as strong on that one. It's out of practice. We are joint playing this week. And you might be thinking, well, you guys said you haven't spoken about this horse yet. We spoke about all the protagonists in the race. You are correct. We're going for one at a big price in the Rebel. And this is one that we always, whether it's NFL, whether it's horse racing, we try and do our prep and then we go, oh, I'm going for this one. And Tom put his selections in. I knew he was going for Tistastic. And then I had a look at the race a couple of days after, and I was thinking, wow, this horse is a massive price. So the joint play, Tom, is Publisher, who is morning line 20-1 in the markets over here in the UK, is currently 16-1. I think Publisher's a massive price. Flavion Pratt's taken the ride for Steve Asmussen as well. Flavion Pratt, to be on a 20-1 shot like this, surely he'd have had a few choices in the race, or he'd have had options to ride a few in the contest. Eric Asmussen's been on board for all 5 starts so far in the career. Respect to Eric Asmussen, Flavion Pratt is the best in the US at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a massive Eric Asmussen fan regardless, but Flavion Pratt on board, I think that's a massive positive. And just the late trip that this horse got last time around, Tom, was, I mean, race ending.
You stole my analysis. Flavion Pratt for Eric Asmussen is arguably, in my opinion, one of the biggest jockey upgrades you'll see. Definitely the best in this race. I mean, Flavion's one of the best, as you say, probably the best at the moment, him or Irad. And Eric's not the strongest. He's only a young jockey. So I think it's just a huge upgrade. Eric got this horse in all kinds of trouble last time in the Southwest. He was making up ground inside and just ran into the back of a horse that was super tired and going backwards. That was a race-stopping manoeuvre. That came in the Southwest, the same race with Speed King, Sandman, Tistastic, etc. I thought he would have been in the top 3. He could have even challenged to win that race that day. And the fact he's a bigger price here than, well, way bigger price here than the other horses is just astounding to me, especially considering the jockey upgrade and the fact he draws pretty well inside. My one issue with him is the fact that he's still a maiden, but I think that's put into the price at 16 or 20-1. You're not really taking that much of a risk there. You can have a smallish play each way, maybe even a small dabble to win, and you only need a small little bit on to get a big return at that kind of price. So I think Publisher's probably the most interesting runner in the field, especially with this jockey upgrade, which is the reason why he was the horse that was the first down on my score sheet, albeit the second in our WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Look, I love Publisher in this. I'm more than happy to go just one horse, playing him each way in this contest. As you say, the Southwest form, I think, is solid. It's very key for this race. I mean, Speed King, Sandman, and Tistastic were the first three home. If you watch them for about halfway, Sandman obviously comes from a little way back and he goes wider, whereas Publishers on the rail, which wasn't the place that you really wanted to be. Even the leaders in that contest, they were coming off the rail as they turned for home, and they just leaned out a little bit. Whereas Publisher was on the rail the entire time. It was American Promise, I think, that hampered him quite badly, and in the end, he inherited a place and was pushed forward to sixth. But he was coming with the run and it stopped literally in a couple of strides. You watch him after that interference happened, though, and for him to quicken and pick up, I'm not going to say he flew, because he didn't, but he ran to the line. But to do that on dirt, that's a really, really tricky thing to do. It clearly shows how much ability this horse has got. Whether this horse can do this or put in those performances away from Oaklawn Park, I don't know. Because quite frankly, his first three efforts were fine, but they weren't fantastic. They were nowhere near a horse on the Kentucky Derby Trail class with the two runs at Churchill and Ellis Park. I think 16 is just a silly price. You look at Tistastic, Tom. Tistastic's morning line 8-1. Sandman is morning line 4-1. And the other one, who I'm missing? Speed King is 6-1.
Speed King?
Yeah, Speed King. There's no reason why in the morning line this horse should be 20-1. This horse should be, for me, 6-1, around that. I think the price is grossly wrong, and you've got a real chance to take value in with Publisher. So joint play time, Tom, and it's something we haven't done for a while.
Yeah, and Steve Asmussen's also going to be looking to get a winner on the board, considering what happened with Magnitude a few days ago. You know, it looked like he was going to potentially have a Kentucky Derby hopeful, and then suddenly he's been ruled out. So Steve's going to have to go again, fire a couple more bullets at these trials, and hopefully he can get the job done with one of them, in my case, or Publisher for your case.
Yeah, just Publisher for the podcast if you want to be a good person.
Yeah, why not?
Selfish. Tom, thank you very much for your company today. We'll be back next week. I've just made an executive decision, by the way. We're going to bring NFL podcast back next week.
Potentially, yeah.
You're like, I've no idea what I'm doing next week. Tom panics when he doesn't know a plan. Big
I do like to have a plan, that's for sure.
Big panic.
But I am here. That's the problem, you see.
We'll be back next week. We'll be doing something on the horse racing front, and I'm going to make sure that we have an NFL video to go as well. Thank you very much for everyone's support last week and for subscribing. We're up to 516 now, so we're on the road towards 550. If you leave a comment, a like down below, then that will help us out massively. And if you aren't subscribed, about 60% of you that watch aren't subscribed, then that would be great if you could. It will very much help out the channel. And Tom, you are back in the country next week?
No, sir. Week after.
I can't keep up with your life.
No.
Tom, you may go sleep. Thank you very much for your help in the Rebel, and hopefully we get a 20-1 winner.
Fingers crossed, mate.
Perfect. Thank you very much for watching the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Until next week, until we get to speak to you, stay safe, look after one another. Bye.